Welcome to Barely Maintaining, the ultimate podcast for die-hard Chicago Bears fans. Join your host, Ryan Burheit, and me, Michael Guyton, as we dive into all things Bears. From game analysis and player insights to the latest news and fan stories, Ryan and I cover it all. Whether cheering from Soldier Field or your living room, Barely Maintaining keeps you connected to your favorite team. Now, let's get ready to bear down. Welcome, everyone, all you Barely Maintaining listeners, to episode 44. This is our last episode in May, our May 31st version for 2025, before we move on to June. We'll talk about some OTAs today. There's a little bit of news from around the league, but not much going on. It is kind of the NFL's dog days of offseason. So we'll mention a couple stories there. The storylines are getting really a stretch now. They're looking for any story out there. Currently, we're talking about Stephon Diggs on a boat with girls. So that's going to be what but yeah, we'll talk about local sports. We got Riverbandits this week. And, of course, there's some playoffs going on from Major League. We got NBA. And NHL, which I understand is a matchup from last year, a rematch from last year, correct?
Florida is there. Yeah.
So that should be interesting. We'll talk about that. I'll pick your brain about some hockey stuff as usual, and of course we'll talk about anything sports from around the league. That being said, there isn't much news, but I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway. What do you got for us this week?
Let's see. I have, Eagles working towards trading pass rusher Bryce Huff to the 49ers. I've seen a lot of talks back and forth with that. The Vikings GM, Kawasi Adolfo Mensa agrees to a multi-year contract extension. I think I was close on that at least.
You did awesome, yeah. Way close. Kudos to Ryan there.
Let's see.
Mensi Kalonsila. Extension to him and our coach, from what I read.
Yep. Free agent pass rusher Von Miller is still trying to get on a team for 2025. It's got to be like if he doesn't retire here, it's probably the last year, right? Like he's been around forever.
It's weird to be talking about Von Miller in the context of him looking for a team, really.
Yeah.
He was dominant for a lot of time, but also just suffered some injury and stuff, and I think his numbers have been down. I mean, I haven't heard nothing about him really.
Yeah.
No, since he's been in Buffalo. I'm sure his play's been solid, but he hasn't been like, Micah Parsons or somebody.
He's 36.
Yeah, I would imagine last year, right?
Yeah.
That's if he gets on a team.
Yeah, it's crazy to think he was like one of the biggest pieces defensively on that Broncos team that won with Peyton Manning.
Doesn't that seem like 20 years ago now?
Yeah.
I mean, Broncos have gone through a couple rebuilds since then.
Yeah. I mean,
it's weird.
Yeah. Titans quarterback Will Levis. Anyone who's ever been in my situation would agree that it sucks. On the situation with Cam Ward basically just walking in and taking over his position. Him,
because he was like a walking meme last year.
Yeah.
Every play he did was a meme, so it's like, yeah, you take over, bud. And honestly, like, is Cam Ward better?
I mean, I would hope.
Right, but we don't know.
Yeah, even if it's one less fumble this season, it's better than Levis.
One less one of these.
Yeah, just.
I mean, you'll be better, but it's like, there's also like you had Caleb, you have Bryce Young. There's a lot of guys that don't like just take off and do great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a situation where Cam Ward's in, first pick, like, in the team. Because what do you have in Tennessee?
Right. I mean, they had a couple like maybe standout receivers that look to be growing, but like definitely not to that level yet.
Now he has a similar problem to what like Green Bay does with like free agents. It's like a smaller market team. It feels like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just hard to get
Which does
a
feel
big
weird for like, I mean, you're in Nashville. Like, I mean, that's
correct.
not,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does
It's not
feel
like a
weird.
small market, but it
Yeah.
feels like a small team. Just guys don't necessarily go to Tennessee to
Yeah. And
make themselves.
one of the coolest colored jerseys, I would say. I love the baby
Yeah,
blue.
yeah, and actually like history because they were the Houston Oilers. You know,
Yeah.
the Texans are an expansion team, so they have no history comparatively.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's weird. They just don't get the free agents though, do they?
No, not really. I mean, they got
I mean,
what? DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, Andre Hopkins,
yeah.
Bernard Hopkins, boxer,
Yeah.
40 years ago.
That's how much of a struggle it is. They're having to bring in boxers. Like,
Yeah, he couldn't cut.
yeah. He just
Turns
kept
out he was
punching the ball. Just
He was 65 years old and didn't play football. So who's picking guys over there?
right.
Yeah.
A couple other things.
Will Levis thing, and then you go with Cam Ward. I mean, so
Yeah.
obviously not great at picking quarterbacks.
Yeah. Let's see. Like you touched on, Bears quarterback Caleb Williams just his desire to be in Chicago following book details. This is just getting kind of old, and I mean, it's like the worst time for it to come out too. Best time for the reporter, worst time for just any Bears fans or Caleb because there's just nothing going on.
Yeah, I didn't. I feel like this more of the driver of the story is the lack of stories versus it being as big of a story as it really is. Because it's like it. I told you immediately. I felt like it made me like him more because all that came out and he still came here.
Yeah,
Still played. Knew it wasn't going to be good.
Yeah,
I mean, how can you not appreciate that?
Right. Center David Andrews retiring following decade with Patriots. You said earlier too, Patriots aware of a viral video of wide receiver Stephon Diggs on a boat. Such a dumb article. Steelers.
There was of course now we're replaying all the footage from Buffalo Bills players being asked, which guy on the team would you least like to date your sister? And the whole team saying Stephon Diggs. So that age like fine wine.
Yeah. Steelers legend Terry Bradshaw calls Pittsburgh's interest in quarterback Aaron Rodgers a joke. Let's see, there is
because I heard that, and he was saying like that's just not the Steeler way. What are we gonna have him for 1 year? It's like, what are we doing? Why aren't we just figuring out what the next game plan is? And geez, it's like how much can he string you along just so he doesn't have to do OTAs?
Yeah.
Just sign. I don't want to come practice yet.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, that would just be just as easy. And then there was, where was it? Jaguars will not be having Travis Hunter practice on both sides during OTAs.
Yeah, they tried doing that and was like, whoopsie.
Yeah.
Too bad at both.
They'll have him rotate days, offense one day, defense another day, kind of a thing.
Too much, too fast.
Yeah. And I feel like there's no reason to be killing the guy this early with it either. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, what's the point of killing him at all, ever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I figure out what he's the best at and just roll with that, and you pepper in, if he's strictly defense, then you pepper in some offensive packages here and there, 3 to 5 plays a game.
Right.
And then, or vice versa. If he's just strictly offense and you pepper in some defensive stuff and maybe put him on special teams. I don't know. I think it's too much.
Yeah. And then, let's see. Demaryius Thomas posthumously selected into Denver Broncos Ring of Fame, which I agree with. I think that's really cool to see happen. He was a really fun receiver to watch when he those years he was pretty big.
Super Bowl, did he not?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on. Yeah,
and I feel like he was a hero of that Super Bowl kind of thing. So
He was Manning's like go-to guy.
Yeah, had some spectacular catches and stuff. So
Yeah.
I feel like, plus like tragic death and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
why not? You guys aren't
Yeah.
putting a quarterback there anytime soon.
Right. And then the last one that was kind of much of a deal at all was Colts will honor Jim Irsay with a signature black jersey patch for the season. So I think that's pretty cool as well.
Any word on what the story there is? Because I don't even hear him being sick or.
I don't know. I know he had some like alcohol abuse and stuff. Yeah. So it probably just happened to be something like I didn't ever see.
That's kind of weird. It was like everyone's like, "Yep, Jim Irsay died," and then nobody ever. And he was like in his 60s, so it wasn't like he was that old.
Right.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Jim Irsay. He was a GM for many years, I believe. Before becoming a team owner, and obviously put Indianapolis Colts on the map because they just weren't really, part of the winning culture. I don't think until Jim Irsay came along, and then, or actually, I think they were at one point, weren't they?
Just looked it up of like what he died of, and like you can't even get like to anything other than just people saying, well, he was fighting against addiction, or he was doing like. Let's not just write shitty stories like that. No, nonstop.
Yeah. The speculation on Facebook is that he had surgery on his leg and died in his sleep. So there's complications from that. Which there's some huge arteries in your leg, so that's very easy. As like heart attacks or whatever. Oddly enough, he did have some scares throughout his life with, so
Yeah.
that's
very cool guy though. There's lots of stories coming out about how like he would just walk by and give like people would recognize him and just give him like $2,000 or pay for Colts fans' funerals, stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's like one of those really wealthy guys that I would like to think I would be like, where you just, you have a huge heart.
Yeah.
For people that are around you. He did treat his fans well too, so and that's important as an owner.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he grew that franchise significantly as far as its value.
Because his dad bought it, right? And then he took it over.
I'm not sure exactly how it worked. I just knew that he at one point, had been a GM and like, he was kind of a, like you said, he's an interesting cat,
Yeah.
He wasn't like average everyday kind of ownership type guy. But also some controversy there too.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happens if you live an interesting life anyway.
Right.
Any word that you've heard are interesting things coming out of the OTAs?
Nothing really.
I will say I've heard the common theme that I've kind of heard is that, accountability, and that they've been, like we talked last week, is that, and Johnson's been kind of on the players when they make mistakes and be, really dialing in the minute details, which is what I can appreciate, because that's what creates a winning culture. I think.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I've seen a lot of videos of the drills Eric Bieniemy is running them through.
Which
he's constantly yelling at him to be better. So I do like that a lot.
Oh no, Monagi, he's like, you look like an old man.
Yeah.
Which I was like, again, like, it's those little things that make the difference, though.
Yeah.
It's you getting good at that one cut that can maybe make a 5-yard run into a 40-yard run.
Right. Swift looked good in those drills, though. I like seeing that. He was moving pretty loose.
Well, and everyone's kind of down on Swift in general. I feel like the Bears Nation is down on Swift, but it's like he hasn't really had an opportunity either, has he?
No, I feel like Eberflus used him in the wrong way most of the time last year. And then it was so much on him that, like, stack the box. Like, see what happens.
Yeah, and then, of course, like, if Caleb's running for his life, doesn't that mean Andre's running for his life a lot of times, too?
Right.
I mean, breaking through the line just as fast when it's a run play.
Yeah.
And especially in those situations where, we got into some of those games where, we're having to pass. So it's like, his numbers were down because of that too.
Right.
I think he knocked on the door of 1,000 yards. He was in 900 and some.
Yeah.
So I feel like we get 1,000-yard rusher out of him this year, and a lot more explosive plays. That was one quote I did want to mention to you. I heard Ben Johnson talking about the tush push and him saying, like, I love explosive plays. So that's not a play I really care about because you get 1 yard on it,
Right.
Yeah, you down, but that's on the 1 yard line. He's like, I want big plays.
Yeah.
Which I can appreciate because that's what I want to see. We've been lacking that, and I don't mind marching down the field methodically, but it was like we don't march methodically, It's like it was always kind of nerve-wracking because it's like when they're going to make a mistake, and the longer they're out there, the closer they are to making a mistake. Instead of like the big play stuff, happening and then doing some, maniacal, monotonous, on the clock stuff, It'd be nice to be in a position to be able to run the ball and just run the clock down.
Yeah.
Haven't really had that opportunity for a few years.
No, not at all.
In any of the games, really.
Yeah, because even the ones we won last year, it wasn't like we had time to be running it out.
Yeah. I know that too. There is some. They keep doing this kind of thing to keep us on the hook with the new stadium, but it's like it's definitely in Arlington Heights now. Is the news that came out like kind of over the last week. But of course that's, nothing official about that.
Right.
Either. But that's kind of the latest there. They're saying it is going to be in Arlington Heights again.
Which wasn't it definitely going to be in Chicago just not that long ago?
Yeah. So because it's been going on so long, I guess Governor J.B. Pritzker has hired a outside legal consultant to advise the state in discussions with the team on building it. Because he's been adamant about the Bears or the state not giving the Bears money to build the stadium, which I'm an advocate for. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's weird.
Plus, they're worth more money if they build their own stadium. Why not build it and own it?
Because then you own all the rights to the concerts. You own, you're doing all of that.
Well, and also, you have control. Like, you can't, whoever the ownership is can't come in a decade and be like, you know what? It's time for you guys to pay up.
Right.
Any situation where you're at Soldier Field where it's $10 million a year in maintenance for an old stadium that,
right.
Know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, you get all the other stuff too. You get the Taylor Swift concerts, you get the Super Bowl, you get, World Cup games and, all sorts of stuff, especially if you can kind of build an infrastructure around that stadium, for the easy in and out and stuff. Unfortunately for Chicago, there is no easy in and out of anywhere, and even in the suburbs.
Yeah.
It's kind of for us because we'd be coming from the west, kind of, and that's the west side. So if you're coming anywhere from the city, it's going to be difficult.
Right.
And of course, if flying in there, but if they have a whole bunch of hotels on site and stuff, it's like you don't have to
Yeah, or
go
put
anywhere
like
else.
a train out there.
Right, exactly. It'll drop you right on site.
Yeah.
That's one thing Chicago does have is good mass transit as far as the L train goes.
Yeah.
I mean, for America, don't get me wrong. I'm not
Right.
comparing it
Yeah.
to their countries because we just don't do it like them.
I wish we did.
In Japan, you can go 3, 2, 1, and that train pulls in.
Yeah.
I rode the coaster in California, which is like their little commuter train. And some days they'd be like, "Oh, it's not showing up today." It's like, what?
Yeah.
How
What?
is it? It's literally just on this track somewhere. Yeah, so just that kind of reliability, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like a lot of people, if you never about losing your job, you're not dependent on that, right?
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, getting off topic though. Talking about transit here. I haven't gone to Japan when I was a kid. It's like super fun to ride like bullet trains and stuff, you know?
Yeah, I bet. They're making one. I can't remember where it was, but in China, right? They're going all the way up China. You can get from one end of China to the other, and like
Probably they've done
yeah,
some like huge scale infrastructure stuff. That would just scare me in China though. Like
yeah,
you're going 300 miles an hour on a rail that was built by people that probably don't like the government. Oh, I don't trust it. But I have heard that you could go from Chicago to New York in like 2 hours. Bullet train.
yeah. If we implemented it,
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
yeah. I wish we could have that. That'd be sick. I'd take it.
I say we get some sort of like the ball that they have in Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
and we just get huge slingshots and just slingshot.
like robots. Did you ever see the animated robots movie? Yeah.
Exactly. Why are we doing that?
just slingshotting people everywhere. That'd be terrifying and awesome all at the same time.
Yeah, terrifying because currently air travel isn't even reliable, let alone a glass ball there.
Just taking out planes.
We had a bird strike. It's like, cool, now I just have covered in bird blood the rest of my hour-and-a-half flight.
It's the first one launches. What the hell is that? As it approaches the plane.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so on the next episode, you'll see our shot ball. Get from Illinois to California in 45 minutes.
Max is in a big catapult phase. I bet he can help us out.
Really? Let's see. We did
Off of like a tip ball or something. It's cool to see him back on the field.
You're comparing that?
Right.
So I thought, because it's like, there's levels to this.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like sold that Swift was a bad signing.
Right, yeah. Like back to our conversation earlier, it's like he suffered the same thing Caleb was. What's the difference there? You know?
Yeah.
Plus, I think he's kind of receiving back, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the Lions and Eagles before, so it's like he was getting none of that.
Yeah, he's a speed rusher and a receiving back. Like he's definitely not like you're up the center trying. Yeah, like they were running a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just running him at the tackles. Power left, power right.
Yeah.
He did have one good catch last year that was kind of over the shoulder deep ball, but it wasn't consistent enough.
But a lot of them were the screen passes where he'd rip it off for like 40 yards.
Yeah. One thing we haven't been talking about either that I was kind of looking into this week is that Grady Jarrett. And the only reason I look into it is because they're talking about how much the Atlanta Falcons are actually going to miss him, from him being like a stable place in their line. So, and he's an interior lineman. So now we got Williams and him on the interior. Force up the run as long as Billings can stay healthy, and obviously Grady Jarrett. But I think he might be kind of a dark horse this year for the defense as far as not getting run on.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Jarrett? I mean, like, why? Honestly, like, why is he being overlooked as far as
Uh,
like kind of our season moves and stuff?
yeah, I think the biggest thing is he's not an explosive player, so to say.
Right.
I think he's more of just that run stopper, like plugs the hole. Like he only had 2.5 sacks last year, and 30 tackles, but like he just plugs it all up, and he like you can't get around him. So I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing.
And he's 11. This is 11th season, So yeah, I
Yeah,
think also that locker room, um, what he's seen it all at this point.
yeah,
In the article on the Chicago Bears website, said the 11-year pro described his life in Chicago as simple. He stays a couple minutes away from Hallis Hall, goes to work each weekday, and relaxes at home afterwards. That simplicity has resulted in a smooth transition for the Atlanta native. So obviously, it's just all about football for him, really, right now,
yeah,
which I can appreciate. Um, Again, we're talking about organized team activities, but look at that line now. Montez Sweat. I won't go out on a limb and we got some guys a guy that can't say his name. Uh, but also Montez Sweat. We got Austin Booker still. Billings, Jared. That defensive line is pretty stout.
yeah,
Like everybody in the NFC North kind of has some rushers. But the interior, I think, is where we kind of step up.
yeah. I think so too.
I guess him and Montez Sweat, him as being in grade year, have been hanging out. So that helps too. Just get some chemistry, continuity, bouncing off each other. Because Javon Dexter's taking is in his third year, and that's like kind of where you have to make the leap.
Yeah. By the way, it's
You either get-
Dayo Odeyingbo.
Exactly. That's what I said earlier. Ode Bingo.
Yeah. Odeyingbo.
That's easier to say than the rest of it. But
I'm gonna get his jersey and just put it up right here, just to.
Odie. Also, we did draft Shamar Turner, right? Texas A&M.
Yes.
He's a defensive end, so don't know how much of him we'll see if everyone else is like doing good this year, but he, might be something as well.
Right.
Jarrett said Turner's not your ability. That sentiment means a lot. It isn't something he takes lightly because Jared is who Turner said he studied when he was in college. So. But defense wasn't our issue, other than maybe stopping the run, and that again, I think, had a lot to do with Billings being injured.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let me tell them about Happy Can here real quick, and then let's come back and talk about some hockey because I know we're at the end here, and it's a rematch, right?
Yep.
So I would say while there's not as much parity, it doesn't seem like in hockey, the good teams are the good teams.
Yeah.
It's not a fluke who's dominant in the league.
Yeah, the star players definitely show out.
Yeah. And playoff hockey is different than regular season hockey, and I feel like that's why it's harder for those newer teams to break through because it's like you have to know what you're doing at that level. You have to take it to a different level, and you have to get there and kind of get your butt whipped and go there next year and make a name for yourself. But let's talk about the Happy Cane, and then we'll talk about the Stanley Cup.
All right, Bears fans, before we dive back into the game talk, we've got to shout out today's sponsor, the Happy Can.
Yeah, if you're looking for a refreshing way to unwind after a long day without the alcohol, but with all the chill vibes, the Happy Can is definitely where it's at.
Happy Can is a lab-tested, vegan-friendly, alcohol-free beverage that's infused with THC and CBD. Whether you're kicking back at home or catching up with friends, it's the perfect way to relax without the hangover.
Exactly. It's crafted for those of us who are over 21 and want to enjoy the benefits of THC and CBD without any of the alcohol. Plus, it's delicious, responsibly sourced, and do we mention it's vegan friendly?
Yep, no sketchy ingredients, just pure chill in a can. So if you're looking for something new to sip on, grab yourself a happy can and keep those good vibes going.
Make sure to check them out on buythehappycan.com and use code BarelyHappy for a special discount for just our listeners. Cheers to a happy, healthier way to unwind.
Happy can, because life's better when you're chill.
All right, everyone. Let's talk about the Stanley Cup. It is a rematch, correct, from last year?
Yep. First
Your
game
thoughts
is on
on
the 4th.
Happy about that? I mean, obviously, you don't have a kind of a dog in the fight, but
Right. I will say Florida just looks really good. I feel like Florida's toughest competition was the Leafs. They ran through the Hurricane, but they just look good. They look really hard to beat. They look aggravating because they just get under your skin. But hopefully McDavid can come in, McJesus can come in and put it up, because it was a 4-3 series last year, I believe, so it went to the end, which is good to see.
Florida had a really, I mean, I'm looking at the rounds here. Round 1, 4-1. Round 2, 4-3. Round 4, 4-1. You know what I mean? So they just beating up on people other than that Toronto, and I don't know how that series went. They could have still beat up on them, even though it was 4-3.
It was a lot of back and forth in that one.
It was.
Yeah.
But Edmonton's been doing the same thing. 4-2, 4-1, 4-1. So they've been kind of dominant on their side as well. I don't know how the bracket or how the divisions and conferences shake out. If it's like basketball, one side's definitely more talented than the other. But
I say it was pretty even this year.
It looked like best teams are facing each other, though, are they not?
Yeah, the Leafs had a 2-0 lead on the Panthers, actually, Florida. So, I mean, they actually had to go through that and ended up going to 7 and taking it. But I would definitely say it seems like the best 2 teams are there. It's sad not to see, like, Ovi there with the Capitals, but it was a fun chase, at least for that. But I think the 2 teams are there. Like I said, McDavid, I don't know if he's won one yet. I don't know. He hasn't. So it'd be cool to see him get one. He's just an insane player. But like I said, the Panthers are just kind of a rat pack in the best of way.
Connor McDavid is the Oilers center.
Yep.
6'1", 194. He's 28 years old. He shoots left-handed.
Yeah. He's insanely fast.
Really? That's his thing?
He's the fastest guy on the ice.
Gotcha. It looks like that he was drafted in 2015, first overall, first round, first pick by Edmonton. So he's a born and bred guy, huh?
Yeah.
As far as the Canadian League goes, or I mean the Canadian League goes. 2025 season, 67 games played. Has 26 goals on 74 attempts. So this is who I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I think Florida's fun to watch, but I'd like to see a Canadian team win it and Edmonton win it. I think that'd be fun for McDavid and
Florida's guy is Matthew Tkachuk.
Tkachuk. The T is silent. Tkachuk. Him and his brother Brady and Matthew are in the league.
Gotcha. Yeah, you think football players' names are hard to say?
Yeah.
Look, Canadian League,
and they're American.
Yeah, those are the American. Look, think about the other country dudes.
Yeah, Tkachuk
if you didn't hear Ovechkin every day, you look at that and be like, I guess it kind of looks like Ovechkin.
Yeah.
But still, you know what I mean? Just not everyday names. Tkachuk, isn't that what Lightning Says.
Ka-chow. But the Kachuk brothers are from like Arizona.
Yeah, sure they are.
Well, the biggest thing is, so the theory is America's getting all these good players because all the Canadian NHL players retire in like Arizona and places like that and stay here in the U.S. and then all of a sudden now they're Americans when they.
Yeah. See, immigration is good. We might suck at hockey. Those Russian dudes come here and live life like, you know what? I ain't going home.
So the Kachuk brothers are the actual, in the Four Nations and the Canadian game where the two got in a fight immediately. That was back to back the brothers. So
each other?
No, they were one fight. 9 seconds later, the next fight, and they sat in the penalty box together.
Just a brother fight?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Nothing to do with the actual hockey.
Yeah.
I told him if we ever got on TV, I was going to fuck him up in front of everybody. I'm honestly rooting for Oilers because also, like, you know, I'm kind of an underdog guy as far as the Panthers having already won last year.
Yeah.
Panthers not historically great team though, right? This is all recent?
Yeah, a lot of the Florida teams have gotten good recently. Like Tampa Bay Lightning won it a couple years ago. Florida won it last year. Like, so, I mean...
I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are more the recognizable hockey team from Florida, to me.
Yeah.
You know, just have seen the jerseys most of my life anyway, comparatively.
Yeah.
But I'll mention it because I always do. It's just hilarious to me that the best place in the world for hockey is Florida.
Yeah.
Only place ice doesn't exist naturally.
They're getting an outdoor game next year. The Winter Classic will be in Florida.
It'll be cool for them.
Yeah.
It's like we have the technology, so who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Why not?
That'll be about the temperature of the ice. It's cool. It won't be frozen. Just cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be on rollerblades, on concrete.
Yeah. Since you won't do it, I'll just...
I'm not that quick with those buttons. I do have some buttons over here, but nothing that cool. All right. Well, what do we got for local sports then while we're here?
Yeah, so...
Riverbandits are going on, right? We have Steamwheelers are still going.
Yes, sir. They played yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the regular season ends in July, and then they play playoffs after that. So pretty much right into where we're looking for. Because we are, as of recording this, I believe it is, let's see, 96 days away from NFL season.
Wow.
Yeah. Not
quick.
Not long. Let's see. Standings. So the Riverbandits did end up losing today, but they are up to 31-19. They've had a pretty good stretch as of late, 6-4. Had won most of last week's games. Are now up by a game and a half to Cedar Rapids in the Midwest League West. Looks like West Michigan is taking a jump in the other league, the Midwest League East. They're actually at 35-15, which is the best team in the Midwest League. So got some catching up to do there, but I mean still leading our side, the West side. So good to see there. I was going to look up some of the stats real quick for them. Let's see. Where is... Their website's kind of hard to fucking...
Yeah, the MLB and minor league sites in general.
Yeah.
Need to clean it up, boys. Hard to decipher your information.
Yeah.
NFL knows what they're doing. They know what they're dealing with here. We're not like super tech savvy here. I need a couple clicks to get to what I need.
Right.
Like stats? Here. Every stat you've ever wanted.
Yeah, it should be that way.
But again, their defense, there's 40,000 minor league baseball teams, and they all probably have their own web designer and doing their own thing. So
There's like
that
not
being
a
said,
stat spot. Weird. All right, well. We'll move on to the Steamwheelers, I guess, then. Steamwheelers did get a win in Tulsa yesterday.
Okay.
I believe it was, let's see, box score, 31-27. They did have a little bit of a slow start. Ended the first half with 10 points, but then picked it up in that, mostly in the fourth, actually. They had a touchdown in the third, but picked it up quite a bit in the fourth to kind of separate themselves more. Let's see about stats. In that game specifically, last year's MVP, Zaquan Neal, was 10 of 18 with 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did take a sack. And
I don't know numbers for arena football. Is that good?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think the field's only 50 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and there is kickoff, so most of your you're returning quite a bit.
Yeah. The yards are, but 10 for 18 is not good no matter how you shake it out, right? I mean,
well, it depends. I mean, they don't seem. I mean, he runs a lot too. So he actually had 13 rushes for 58 yards. So, and a touchdown with that as well. So, I know they run him a lot, and they run Gerard Ware as well, 6 for 34, with a touchdown as well. So, there's a lot of that.
Yeah. They obviously don't have as many plays they're running in general.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's limited itself, you know? I mean, shoot, you're running 70 plays.
Possession
at
time.
40 plays on
yeah.
the NFL.
It looks like they had 17:23 of possession time and 12:22 of possession time. So maybe do they have 10-minute quarters? Maybe.
Oh, so which that would change things too.
Yeah. That's what it looks like. Yeah, that would add up to 40. I was trying to see if they had a total number of plays. Actually, both teams had 42 plays. So, average yard per play. Tulsa actually led with 4.5 yards per play, and the Steamwheelers had 4.1. Both teams had a fumble. And then I thought somebody had an interception, but I'm not. Let's see.
What are they on the standings? Do you know?
Yes, they are, I believe, are still in first, but let me pull it up. Standings. Load. Oh no, we've dropped quite a bit actually. Wait, what?
Oh, really?
This is this is last year's. Why the heck would I want that? So yeah, we are in first. So we lead the East.
Because we talk about them every week, so
yeah,
there's got to, unless they'll played several games in a week here.
Yeah, they lead the East at 7-2. Green Bay Blizzard at 6-3. Tulsa is at 6-3. And Jacksonville's at 6-3. The West side is got the Arizona Rattlers are 7-1. Bay Area Panthers is 6-2, and everybody else is like 4-4. So it looks like the league.
Nice. Yeah. So make sure you guys go out and check out the Steamwheelers. If they're in your town or locally here in the Quad Cities, they play at the Vibrant Arena at the Mark. In other news, MLB wise, the Cubs are doing pretty good, are they not? We're 36-22, 3 games up in the Central.
Yeah, it was. We were hoping my buddy could get on. He actually got to go to the. His fiance bought him tickets to the Cincinnati Reds game against the Cubs because he lives in Ohio now. So he got to go to that. Said it was a blast. What do you say? The whole stadium kept erupting every time. I mean, there was a lot of bombs hit that game, so it was a blast.
We are currently in a 4-game series with the Reds, and we have won the first 2. No.
Yeah.
Right. They won the first one. I was looking at a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
They won 6-2. We got this one 2-0. Must have been the 6-2 game.
He was at...
Having lived in San
No,
Diego.
he was at the 11-8 one. We had just played the Reds